Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms, and today we're going to have a little conversation about tractor brands and just share some information that actually you could Google and find online and give my thoughts on it. So you guys know I like to go to as many farm shows as I can, and one of my favorite things to do is walk up to a salesman and say, with all the different tractor brands that are available today, why would someone buy yours? And I really enjoy hearing what their responses are. I've also been going around and visiting people who live maybe within a few hours of me and have a different brand of tractor that I haven't shown before. Operate the tractor, ask them, what do you like about it? What do you not like about it? What made you pick this brand? And find that the answer is really unique and interesting. And I've been saying for a long time, I don't think that there is anybody making a bad machine now. The build quality on all of these tractors is really good, and it has to be, because how else would you compete in this market? So we'll start with the elephant in the room, which is John Deere. Now, I actually had someone get mad at me during the Mahindra video, I think, because I was promoting foreign-made tractors, and if we would all just promote American-made tractors, we'd have more jobs, and I agree with a lot of that mindset. But the fact is, there are no 100% American-made compact tractors. Zero. So if there was a 100% American-made, someone locally started their own tractor company, I'd be really interested in getting that American-made tractor and supporting that company to a point. If they don't make a good tractor, it doesn't matter, right? Are you going to spend $40,000 on a machine so that you can feel proud to have bought an American-made machine if it's not a good machine? I don't think any of us are doing that. So I like it when I can see that maybe the entire machine is not American-made, but they're assembling it in the United States, something like that. And that's the case with the majority of these manufacturers. I think Deere, they get a bad rep for people pushing against them sounding like the most American-made company, but the truth is they probably are the most American-made tractor, because all their big tractors, their big ag tractors, they're building their own engines here in the States, and they're assembling all the tractors here. But even in those cases, you're still getting your hydraulic components and maybe your computer chips, and you're getting parts from overseas. But Yanmar partnered with John Deere to make all of their compact tractors for a long time. And I believe they might still make some of them now, but also I think a lot of the compacts are made by Deere, but they all have Yanmar engines. So that's a Japanese company. So there's no American-made tractor. We just got that out of the way. What John Deere does is they find a company that's really good at something, they partner with them, they learn how to do it. My stand-on mowers were partnered with Wright. Wright is an American-made company. They make their own mowers. It's all designed in-house. With lawn mowers, there are more of those companies like I was talking about, where some guy starts up a new company and they build it up, and you've got these real American-made options. Same thing with the attachments. There are tons of companies that I've featured that are 100% building these things. The ownership is here. The company's still family-owned. All the stuff you're looking for, it just doesn't go all the way up to tractors. So they partnered with Wright, and they learned how to make a stand-on mower. The partnership ended, and you can look and judge for yourself which company has continued to innovate with those stand-on mowers. And same thing with like John Deere construction equipment. They partnered up with Hitachi. The compact tractors, it was Yanmar. And you know, that's just the nature of this business. So we just talked about the partnership between Yanmar and Deere. Let's talk a little bit about Yanmar. That's a Japanese company that when I showcased them in the Tulsa Farm Show video, a lot of people didn't know much of anything about Yanmar, and that salesman was really effective at talking about why Yanmar is a great company. And obviously, Deere chose to partner with them for a reason, right? It's not because they made a bad machine. Yanmar's been around since 1912, and in 1933, they made the first diesel engine that was small enough for practical use. So they've been perfecting the diesel engine for now 88 years, if my math is correct. And Yanmar has a full line of construction equipment. I've rented a Yanmar mini excavator. You name it, they make it. All different size tractors. And they make engines for a ton of different manufacturers. So the thing I was most impressed about Yanmar is, out of any of the companies I'm aware of, Yanmar comes the closest to making every single component of the tractor and designing it themselves, from the engine to the transmission to the axles. If you buy a Yanmar tractor, it's all Yanmar, and it's got a 10-year warranty on it. So right now, if I was looking to buy a tractor and said I'm not focusing on cost as my primary concern, I want the best tractor I could get, I would look really hard at Yanmar. Next is Kubota. Almost should have started with them because they're #1 in sales for compact tractors. Although when I get to the end and list off overall sales, they're not at the top. For compacts, Kubota is #1. And you don't become #1 in sales as a Japanese company. You don't become #1 in sales in America without doing a few things right. Same thing I was just saying about Yanmar. Kubota's been making engines for a very long time. 1923, they made their first combustion engine that ran on kerosene. Kubota's been making tractors since 1960, and the way they became #1 in the States was by being innovative at a time when no one else was. You had small garden tractors, and you had big ag tractors. And there was kind of a gap in the middle, and Kubota was the first one to really nail that gap, that sweet spot where most of what me and most of my viewers are probably living in is the hobbyist tractor. In 1974, Kubota was the first company to make a mini excavator the way we know them now, that had 360 rotation and moved and everything like what you're used to on a mini excavator. That was Kubota innovation. They were also the first company to make a subcompact tractor with a loader and a backhoe, like what is so popular now. And that's how they gained the market share, by hitting that hobbyist market. People think I don't like Kubota, and I'll say you don't become #1 on accident, but I would also say that nobody writes songs about orange tractors. That's just a joke, but I enjoy making it. And Kubota is just like Yanmar. A lot of other companies are choosing Kubota engines to put in their machines. It's a big compliment. So far, we've covered 2 companies that are Japanese companies, and 1 that uses Japanese engines. And now we're going to South Korea. And it might seem kind of weird that the 4th company I want to talk about is TYM. Because to a lot of people, TYM is one of these new companies to jump into the game. But that's not really the case either. TYM's been a company with the name TYM since 1951, and they've been making farm equipment since 1973. They've been selling tractors in the United States since 2004, and they've sold a lot of tractors, or they've manufactured a lot of tractors sold under other names. I found a list of tractor brands that were manufactured by TYM, and it was a long list, like 12 names on there. And some of those have only been sold in other countries, and some of them have went out of business in the United States. But the fact that that tractor brand went out of business isn't a reflection on TYM, but it is something that you should think about when you're looking at tractor brands. There were so many brands on that list, I'm not going to go through them all, but I did write down a few of them that were noteworthy. So we have the Cabela's tractor. I didn't know Cabela's ever made a tractor, but they did, and it was a TYM. Then we've got Lamborghini. Yes, that Lamborghini. If you're in Europe, a lot of countries, you can go and buy a Lamborghini tractor. It's made by TYM. Mahindra. Mahindra is a huge manufacturer on their own. They make a lot of their own tractors. But they also, in America, if you buy a compact Mahindra, there's a good chance it's made by TYM. RK. If you guys are like me and you like to watch Outdoors with the Morgans, he had those RK Rural King tractors for years. Always talked about how much he liked those tractors. Those are all TYM tractors. And then there's an example, Montana tractors. They came on the scene and went out of business. And like I said about Cabela's, having a good tractor is not all it takes. You have to be able to support the customer after they buy the tractor. And the biggest bridge to that is building customer confidence that you can sell tractors and support them, because if people don't believe you can support your tractor, they're not going to buy it. So I could contact TYM if I had deep enough pockets and say, I want to make the Rock Hill tractor. But if I'm not answering the phone when you need a replacement lift cylinder, then we've got a problem. So what does that all tell me? It tells me if I was going to buy a tractor that's made by TYM, I'd be tempted to just buy a TYM tractor. Because another company rebranding a TYM tractor might work, and they might be here for another 50 years, or they might not. I would put my trust, TYM is a big national company. I would put my trust that they're still making tractors. I've got to run several TYM tractors, seem really nice to me. I'm seeing the dealer network expand for TYM. And they've recently, well, I say recently, but I guess it's been 6 years now, they bought Kubota. And Kubota is an engine company that also is the same parent company that makes Branson tractors. TYM has acquired Branson. And so if you have a Branson tractor, you can still get parts for it through Kubota and TYM. But the Branson tractors will now be sold. You can get the same basic tractor, but it's going to be sold as a TYM tractor. Most of the online tractor community is probably aware that Branson's been acquired by TYM. They're doing all their advertising about bringing those two brands under one roof. What you may not be aware of is that Bad Boy Tractors is also made by Branson, or they were manufactured by Branson, rebranded as Bad Boy. And that's now a branch of TYM. So if I was going to buy a Branson tractor, I'd just get a Branson tractor, even though this is getting a little confusing, even though it's now called TYM. Now, what's next for Bad Boy? That's the question. Are they going to innovate? Are they going to build their own tractors? You know, they've made a name for themselves as a mower brand, but I'm interested to see what they do as a tractor company. So I'm not saying don't buy a Bad Boy tractor. I think everyone should take that time to find out who's actually making it so they can try to make a determination of what the future support is going to be to get parts and service for the machine you're buying. Next is Kioti. And Kioti is owned by Daedong. I'm probably not saying that right. But that is a South Korean tractor manufacturer that makes the Kioti tractors. And I think they've done some brilliant marketing because in the U.S. market, they're selling the Kioti tractor and doing the best of the two most popular American compact tractors, John Deere and Kubota. They're making an orange tractor like Kubota, and they're misspelling an animal name and putting it on their emblem like Deere. So, very well done on the marketing. And a lot of people say that Kioti is just a copy of Kubota. I think that just comes from the fact they're both orange. That does not mean anything else about them is the same. 800 videos I've put out, all of the comments I've got, I've never had somebody say they weren't happy with their Kioti tractor. But just putting it out there, it's a South Korean company called Daedong. Next is Bobcat. When you hear Bobcat, you think, well, that's an American-made company. Well, no. It's 2007, Bobcat was bought by Doosan, which is a South Korean company. And they're not making their own tractors. Bobcat years ago made their own tractors, and a rep from Bobcat has told me they're committed to making their own tractors in the future. But right now, Bobcat tractors are made by Daedong, and it's almost the same tractor as the Kioti. And when I say it's made by, that doesn't make it the exact same tractor. Because they can say, we want these components that you use on the Kioti, but we want a different loader, we want a different... They make all these different options to differentiate between the brands. But you're going to find a very similar tractor between Kioti and Bobcat. Now, Bobcat is a big enough company in all other industries. I would trust that they're going to continue to be available long-term and provide support. There's a huge Bobcat dealer network, so I wouldn't be concerned about that, and I'm really interested to see what they do with their tractor line going forward. Next company I wanted to bring up is LS Tractors. They are a South Korean company. They've been selling tractors in the US since 2009 as LS, but they sell tractors around the world. They've been doing this for a long time. I could not find a lot of information on the LG group, which is what owns LS, but I have been very interested because some of the big brands have their own line of dealerships that are dedicated to only carrying their products. Deere sells Deere, Kubota sells Kubota kind of thing. Bobcat sells Bobcat. But then some of these smaller independent dealerships will have Bad Boy and Branson and LS at the same dealership, or whatever the case may be. And so I like to ask those guys, when you've got a customer coming in, how do you advise them between the 3 tractor brands that you sell? And what I'm hearing from those guys is that the LS tractors are dramatically cheaper than the same size equivalent from the other brands. And everyone wants the best tractor, but you've really got to factor in price. So I'd be really tempted to give a hard look to those LS tractors when we're not talking about $2,000 or $3,000 difference. We might be talking about $10,000 or $15,000 difference. So they seem to have a good dealer network. They've been around a while, and that's a lot of money to save. Next is Mahindra. The #1 sold tractor in the world is Mahindra. It's made in India. This is our first company that makes tractors in India. And the market for tractors in India is very different than it is in the United States. In the US, we have mainly, most of our food is produced by giant farming operations that have $1-million machines and giant equipment. The field across from me, the machine that runs that is like a 8 or 9 series Deere with 2 sets of tracks, 10 foot tall, like this monster machine that runs through the field at 40 miles an hour. And I don't know a whole lot about that kind of agriculture, but that's where a lot of our food comes from. It's not as much small farmers. And then a lot of our tractor market is homesteaders, but also just hobbyists, people who want to be able to get stuff done. And in India, you've got a lot of people who want to grow food as cheaply as possible. And they want the cheapest tractor they can get. But that is a huge market. The population is huge. The number of tractors sold in India is more than any other country. And Mahindra sells more tractors than any other manufacturer in the world. John Deere being second. So in America, Mahindra, I had people comment about someone saying they were like new, or Mahindra's been around a long time and they know how to build a tractor. But that doesn't mean that they might not have all the features that you're looking for in a tractor. But for a cost-effective base tractor, I've talked to several people who are really happy with their Mahindras. Now we're going to get to a couple models that stir up a lot of debate and comments, which is ITL. I've already forgotten what ITL stands for, but it's an Indian company. They're the 3rd largest tractor manufacturer in India. They're also known as Sonalinka, and in America, they're just now starting to sell their own tractors with their own branding, and it's called Solis. So, brand new tractor manufacturer in the United States, but just like I was saying before, they're not new to making tractors. So these companies that have been making tractors for a long time sell hundreds of thousands of tractors every year. I don't doubt at all that they make a good tractor. The question is, what's the dealer network going to turn into in the United States? Same company that's making the Solis tractor is also making the Summit tractor. I've demonstrated a Summit tractor. We all know Courtney from Good Works Tractors has been showing the Summit tractors a lot. They have a very impressive feature set for what you pay for the tractor. I was impressed with the machine. we ran a stump grinder on it. I moved some rock, I moved some brush and some tree branches, and just used it a little bit, right? But I liked a lot of things about that way that machine was built, and it comes with a lot of premium features at a economy price. And that's made by ITL. Solis is made by ITL. And the question is, are those companies going to be the next Cabela's tractor that might have been a great machine, in that case made by TYM, but Cabela's did not stick with selling that tractor and supporting that tractor? Or are they going to be Mahindra, which has been in the United States and is a reputable... There's a Mahindra dealership 5 minutes from me. It's the closest dealer anywhere near me, and they have a great reputation around here. The question with buying a tractor from Solis or Summit is, are they going to build that network? And right now, Summit tractors are purchased at Atwood's if you want one. Worldwide, New Holland is the 4th most purchased tractor, according to the information I could find. They're number 4 in tractor sales. But I don't really see much of a market on the compacts. Now, around me, all the bigger farmers, they're either running John Deere or they're running New Holland. It's because I've talked to these farmers and they say New Holland makes a really good machine and it's a lot cheaper than John Deere. So that's the two biggest things I see are New Holland and Deere. But I think New Holland is not a real big player in the compacts. And then the same company that owns New Holland is Case. So it's Case New Holland. I believe it's CNH is the company. And even further up the ladder is Fiat. Owns the whole thing, which is the same foreign company that owns Ram. You guys know I've got a Ram truck that I had an issue with, and all the Fiat comments have been drowning me on those videos. So I don't have any opinion on that. But I was really interested to see that Case is still selling compact tractors. I knew they make big construction equipment. I knew they had bigger tractors. I didn't know much about their compacts. But you can go to Case, and Case is still selling tractors that are branded as Farmall. And I thought Farmall tractors didn't exist anymore. But if you buy a compact tractor from Case, it looks like you're actually buying a Farmall. Another one that's really interesting is Massey Ferguson. I never hear anything about Massey Ferguson compact tractors, but according to what I could find, they're the 3rd most sold tractor in the world. And they've been around a long time. If I was buying a tractor, I would take the time to find out about Massey Ferguson. So again, I've got no real recommendation here. I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't buy. I just thought I'd clear up some information about who makes what and where it's made. And I wish I could buy an American-made tractor, but it doesn't exist. So what I'm going to try to do, if I decide to switch tractors, is try to find a company that makes a great machine at a good price. So I appreciate you taking time to watch this video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos. I'll see you next time.